Hey everybody, I'm Robby, and this is my friend Ricky. But as you can tell, he's not allowed to talk. He can only provide sound effects for our story today. And our story is David and Goliath. So, let's begin. Our story is Our story is about one of the most famous heroes in all of the Bible. King David. But our story begins way long before David was a king. So let's rewind a little bit to when he was a boy. Now, David was the youngest brother of 8 other brothers. That means he had like 7 siblings. That's crazy. So he had the jobs that no one else really wanted to do. Like taking care of his father's sheep. Gross. It turned out that David was actually a really good shepherd, though. In fact, one day, a lion attacked the sheep. But he fought back and killed the lion. Another time, a bear attacked the sheep. But he fought back and killed the bear. While David was taking care of his father's sheep, his brothers had a much more important job to do. They were in the Israelite army, preparing for an epic battle. Preparing for an epic battle. Well, kinda. While his brothers were preparing for their epic battle, David's father was concerned about them, so he sent David to send them some extra food so they would be prepared for the battle. David gathered some grain, some bread, and some cheese. When David brought the food to his brothers, he found them all hiding. Because out on the battlefield, there was a giant with a massive sword.
Dun, 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 dun.
He was shielded in bronze. He stood 10 feet tall. And his name was Goliath.
Goliath. I'm sorry, I can't talk. I'm sorry. Dun, 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 dun.
When David arrived on the battlefield, Goliath was insulting the people of God. Even cursing God himself.
Beep.
None of the other soldiers wanted to fight Goliath because they were all too afraid. But David wasn't. David knew that because God was on his side, Goliath didn't stand a chance. David came up with a plan. He went down to a stream and he chose 5 smooth stones. David marched to the battlefield right towards the giant. When Goliath saw him, he started to make fun of David. But David wasn't bothered by the laughter or any of Goliath's jokes that he was making about him, because he believed what God said about him, and he knew God was on his side. And because of that, Goliath didn't stand a chance. David reached into his bag and pulled out a stone.
Oh, stone.
Pulled out a stone. He put it in a sling, and he swung it around his head. Then Goliath drew his massive sword and charged. The giant stormed across the battlefield toward David. David began to swing faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, waiting for the perfect shot. And faster. No, not yet. The stone flew and hit Goliath right between the eyes. The stone sunk deep into his head and Goliath fell to the ground. David reached down, picked up Goliath's sword, and chopped off his head. David reached down and picked up the Goliath's head and he showed it to the army of the Philistines. And that day, David showed everyone that even though he was just a boy, he could still do great things that God had planned for him. And that is the story of David and Goliath.